Welcome to the book summary of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, one of the most timeless guides to human connection, influence, and emotional intelligence ever written. This book isn't just about being liked, it's about understanding people, what they value, what they fear, and how they want to feel in your presence. At its heart, Carnegie's message is simple. The way you make people feel determines your influence. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. And in a world full of noise, the rarest thing you can give someone is your genuine attention. Every person you meet carries invisible signs that say, "Make me feel important." When you do that authentically, you unlock trust, loyalty, and connection. Carnegie believed that influence begins not with speaking, but with listening. It's not about impressing others, it's about making others feel impressive. To win friends, start by showing sincere interest in others. Ask questions, listen with curiosity, and remember that everyone's favorite topic is themselves. A person who feels heard feels respected, and respect is the foundation of all influence. Carnegie said, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." It's not flattery, it's empathy. It's understanding that people open up to those who make them feel seen. Think about your own experiences. Who do you trust more? The person who talks endlessly about themselves, or the one who genuinely asks about your life? The greatest communicators make others feel valued. They turn every conversation into a mirror of the other person's worth. And that begins with one habit: listening to understand, not to reply. Most people listen waiting for their turn to talk. But when you listen without agenda, people feel safe. Carnegie's principles are timeless because they appeal to something deeply human: the desire to feel acknowledged. When someone remembers your name, your story, or your small details, it touches something emotional. That's not a tactic, that's connection. One of Carnegie's key lessons: never criticize, condemn, or complain. Criticism doesn't change people, it hardens them. It triggers defensiveness, not growth. Instead, he teaches us to replace judgment with understanding. Try asking, "Why might this person act this way?" When you replace anger with curiosity, empathy begins. Even in leadership, this principle holds true. A great leader doesn't command respect by fear, but by understanding. The person who can manage emotions, their own and others, always holds the quiet power in any room. Carnegie reminds us that people respond far better to appreciation than argument. Praise publicly, correct privately. When you make someone feel respected, they'll walk through fire for you. He writes, "Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise." In other words, catch people doing something right. Encouragement transforms behavior faster than criticism ever will. This is not manipulation, it's emotional leadership. It's seeing the best in people until they start seeing it too. Think of how children respond to positive reinforcement. Adults are no different. We all crave acknowledgement. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools in human connection is a genuine smile. It says, "I'm glad to see you," without a word spoken. Carnegie observed that our emotions are contagious. Enthusiasm, kindness, joy, they ripple through every interaction. When you greet someone with warmth, their guard lowers. They mirror your energy instinctively. That's why smiling isn't superficial. It's strategic empathy. You're not pretending to be happy. You're creating comfort. He tells a story of a businessman who doubled his success by remembering people's names and using them sincerely in conversation. A name is the sweetest sound to any person's ears, because it's not just a word, it's identity. It says, "I see you." Every small gesture, remembering a detail, showing patience, offering encouragement, adds up to massive influence. People might forget what you sell or say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel about themselves. Carnegie believed that influence isn't about power, it's about partnership. It's about helping others win, so they want you to win too. If you want cooperation, begin with appreciation. If you want loyalty, give respect first. In every human interaction, one law holds true: what you give emotionally returns tenfold. Treat people as valuable, and they'll start acting valuable. Carnegie's wisdom still applies in today's digital world. Behind every username is a person longing for respect, recognition, and kindness. When you communicate online, remember, empathy translates across screens. Tone, patience, and sincerity still matter. The principles of human connection don't change, only the tools do. There's a quiet kind of power in being kind. Not the loud, performative kind, but the calm, consistent respect that makes people feel safe around you. Carnegie's genius lies in his ability to turn soft skills into superpowers. Because kindness, when practiced with awareness, becomes influence. He teaches, if you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. Meaning, if you want cooperation, don't start with criticism. When you attack someone's pride, you lose their heart. But when you respect their perspective, even if you disagree, you keep the door to influence open. It's human nature to want to feel right. That's why arguing rarely changes minds, it only strengthens resistance. Carnegie said, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Instead of proving someone wrong, find common ground. You don't need to win every debate, you need to win trust. People don't change through pressure, they change through possibility. When you approach conflict with empathy, saying things like, I might be wrong, but let's look at this together, you invite collaboration instead of confrontation. That simple shift, from competition to curiosity, can transform any relationship. In business, in love, in leadership, people follow those who make them feel understood. Carnegie tells countless stories of how great communicators disarm tension with humility. They don't attack opinions, they ask questions. They turn confrontation into conversation. Imagine two co-workers in disagreement. One raises their voice, the other lowers theirs. One insists on being right, the other seeks to understand. Guess which one earns respect? People rarely remember who won the argument. They remember who respected them. That's the secret of lasting influence. Emotional intelligence in action. Carnegie also emphasizes the importance of admitting your mistakes quickly and sincerely. It takes courage to say, I was wrong. But that courage builds credibility. People trust those who own their flaws more than those who hide them. Humility is magnetic because it feels human. In a world obsessed with perfection, authenticity stands out. The person who can laugh at their own errors radiates confidence, not weakness. When you admit your faults, you disarm criticism because you've already said what others might. And when you do it with grace, people lean closer. Carnegie reminds us that honesty earns respect faster than pride ever will. Then he offers another golden principle. Start with praise and honest appreciation before pointing out a mistake. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional awareness. People lower their defenses when they feel valued first. If you must correct, cushion it with respect. A leader might say, you've done great work on this project. I love your creativity. There's just one small thing we can improve together. The difference between that and you messed this up is the difference between resentment and growth. Criticism delivered with warmth becomes guidance. Criticism delivered with ego becomes rejection. Carnegie teaches us that influence grows from understanding the emotions underneath every interaction. He also reminds us to let others save face. Even when they're wrong, never humiliate. Always preserve dignity. People will forgive mistakes, but they won't forget embarrassment. So, build others up, even when correcting them. You're not trying to win over their mind, you're protecting their heart. Because influence, at its core, is emotional safety. Carnegie believed that people crave one thing above all else: to feel important. If you can give someone that feeling genuinely, they will always remember you. He writes, talk to someone about themselves, and they'll listen for hours. That's not vanity, it's validation. We live in a world where everyone wants to be seen. To be that person who truly listens, that's rare power. Ask people about their dreams, their challenges, their stories. Then actually listen, not with the intent to respond, but to understand. Every human being wants to be noticed. When you notice others with sincerity, you become unforgettable. Carnegie also shares the importance of letting others feel ownership. When you give people a voice, they feel valued. When you impose your ideas, they resist. Invite collaboration. Ask for opinions, seek feedback, and make others feel like partners, not subordinates. Great leaders don't say, do this. They say, what do you think? That question turns followers into allies. People support what they help create. That's why influence isn't domination, it's cooperation. Carnegie reminds us that even in persuasion, the key is subtlety. Let others think it was their idea. When people feel ownership of a decision, they'll fight to defend it. That's the difference between a boss and a leader. One gives orders, the other gives empowerment. Carnegie's wisdom has guided millions because it's rooted in timeless truth. Human beings don't want to be managed, they want to be inspired. And inspiration begins with respect. The best communicators speak not to impress, but to uplift. They understand that leadership is less about authority and more about empathy, because when you make others feel seen, they naturally want to see you succeed too. That's the magic of genuine influence. It creates mutual elevation. Carnegie's methods might seem simple, but their power is profound. They turn everyday interactions into opportunities for connection. Whether you're a teacher, entrepreneur, creator, or friend, these principles reshape how people experience you. When you make people feel valued, they become loyal not just to your words, but to your energy. Because in the end, connection isn't built on logic, it's built on feeling. And every time you make someone feel seen, respected, or appreciated, you leave an emotional fingerprint that never fades. Every person you meet carries an invisible sign that says, "Make me feel important." If you learn to read that sign and respond with sincerity, you unlock the deepest form of influence. Carnegie reminds us, you don't win friends with words, you win them with warmth, and warmth begins with appreciation. There's a powerful difference between flattery and genuine praise. Flattery manipulates, praise empowers. Flattery says what people want to hear. Praise recognizes what's real, what's good, what deserves light. When you give honest appreciation, you remind people of their worth. You lift them higher than their doubts. People never forget how you made them feel seen. A kind word, a small compliment, a moment of acknowledgement. These are the currencies of human connection. Carnegie's timeless advice? Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. In other words, don't hold back goodness. When you see something beautiful in someone, say it. The world is full of critics. Be the encourager. Because encouragement is fuel for the human spirit. In every room you have a choice, to compete for attention or to create belonging. Those who create belonging always win hearts. Carnegie understood that influence isn't about charisma, it's about care. People remember not what you said, but how you made them feel. That's why he teaches us to remember names. A person's name, he said, is the sweetest sound to their ears. It's a small act with a huge ripple. It says, "You matter enough for me to remember you." Names are identity, recognition, dignity. When you use them with kindness, you make people feel visible. Carnegie also reminds us to smile. A genuine smile is universal language. It disarms tension and welcomes trust. A smile costs nothing, yet it can open doors words never could. When you smile, you signal safety. When you frown, you create distance. Simple gestures often hold the deepest impact. Because human connection isn't built on big speeches. It's built on micro moments of warmth. Carnegie's next lesson. See things from the other person's point of view. It sounds simple, but it's transformative. When you pause to imagine what someone else is feeling, fear, pride, hope, insecurity, you stop reacting and start relating. Empathy turns conflict into connection. If someone is angry, there's usually pain behind it. If someone resists, there's fear of loss. When you see that, you stop fighting symptoms and start healing roots. That's emotional intelligence in motion. Carnegie believed the most powerful question in communication is, why would this person feel this way? It shifts your focus from yourself to understanding them. And when people feel understood, they soften. Understanding doesn't mean agreeing. It means respecting their reality, even when it's different from yours. That single act can turn strangers into allies and adversaries into partners. Influence is empathy applied strategically. Carnegie also introduces the power of encouraging others to talk about themselves. He noticed that people light up when they get to share their story. And when you listen, truly listen, you create trust faster than any title or talent could. The best conversationalists, he says, are the best listeners. They make people feel interesting, not interrogated. They don't dominate. They draw others out. That's what separates charm from connection. Charm makes people notice you. Connection makes people remember you. To create that connection, Carnegie encourages us to find common ground. When you focus on shared values, shared challenges, shared dreams, you dissolve barriers. Similarity creates safety. And safety is where influence grows. Even in disagreements, start with what you share. Say, we both want what's best, we just see it differently. That single statement turns debate into dialogue. Carnegie's next insight? Give others a reputation to live up to. When you believe in someone's potential and speak it out loud, they often rise to meet it. Say things like, "You're so dependable, I trust your judgment," or "You've always had a great sense for details." When you affirm someone's higher self, you invite them to act like it. People tend to become what you expect of them. That's not manipulation, it's belief in motion. Great leaders use this principle constantly. They don't criticize failure, they call out potential. They replace shame with inspiration, and the results are remarkable, because people thrive under encouragement. Carnegie reminds us that leadership isn't about forcing people to do better. It's about helping them want to do better. When you show faith in others, they start showing faith in themselves. That's how influence becomes transformation. Because at its heart, this book isn't about strategy, it's about humanity. It's about remembering that every person you meet wants to feel valued, respected, and capable of growth. And when you become the person who gives others that feeling, doors open effortlessly, business grows, friendships deepen, partnerships strengthen. Why? Because influence isn't about power, it's about presence. It's not about being the smartest in the room, it's about being the safest. When people feel emotionally safe with you, they trust you. And trust is the foundation of everything worth building. That's the hidden power in Carnegie's teachings. He doesn't just show you how to win friends. He shows you how to win hearts. And the person who can win hearts will always have influence, not through control, but through connection. We don't need others to always say yes. We need them to truly see us. That's why the most magnetic people are those who listen with empathy, speak with honesty, and lead with heart. Carnegie's teachings remind us, influence isn't about bending others to your will, it's about aligning with their humanity. And when you make people feel heard, you make them feel loved. Love, in its purest form, is attention. And attention is the rarest form of generosity in our distracted world. When you give that gift freely, your undivided presence, your genuine curiosity, you become unforgettable. Carnegie understood that influence has nothing to do with power and everything to do with presence. Presence says, "You matter. I'm here with you." Every great connection begins there. He also warned against one of humanity's greatest traps, the urge to criticize. Criticism feels satisfying in the moment but destroys trust over time. It makes others defensive, small, and unseen. Instead, choose compassion. When you replace judgment with curiosity, you don't lower your standards, you raise your awareness. You stop reacting to people's behavior and start understanding their emotions behind it. That's where transformation begins. Carnegie's principles are simple because truth doesn't need to be complicated. Smile, listen, appreciate, encourage. They sound basic, yet they move mountains. Because people don't change through logic. They change through love. He reminds us that every interaction is a mirror. What you give out, energy, tone, emotion, always returns. When you make others feel capable, you become powerful. When you make them feel small, you shrink with them. True influence is a reflection of emotional maturity. When you can control your reactions, you control your relationships. Carnegie says you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in others than you can in 2 years trying to get others interested in you. That's the golden rule of connection. Focus outward, not inward. Stop worrying about being interesting. Start being interested. Because when you shift the spotlight from self to service, your influence multiplies effortlessly. It's the paradox of life. The more you give, the more you're remembered. And what you give doesn't have to be money or status. It's time, attention, kindness, the currencies that compound forever. Carnegie's philosophy turns ordinary people into extraordinary connectors. He believed anyone, introvert or extrovert, can learn the art of influence, because influence isn't personality. It's empathy in motion. Every smile, every kind word, every act of listening. These small moments weave the invisible web that holds communities, friendships, and dreams together. When you start treating every person like they matter, you begin living like a leader. That's when influence stops being a tactic and starts becoming a way of being. Carnegie's timeless principles teach us to master ourselves first, our reactions, our tone, our ego. Because the person who can stay kind under stress, calm under conflict, and compassionate under criticism is unstoppable. They radiate something rare, emotional grace. And emotional grace is the purest power there is. The world is full of people trying to be impressive. Be the one who's simply kind. Because kindness never goes out of style, and it never loses its strength. When you walk into a room with warmth and sincerity, you elevate the atmosphere. People may forget your words, but they'll never forget your energy. Influence at its highest level isn't about persuasion, it's about presence. It's the silent power that says, "You can trust me. I see you." When you lead with empathy and end with respect, you've mastered the art of connection. Carnegie's legacy lives on because he didn't just teach communication, he taught compassion. He showed that you can be ambitious and kind, confident and humble, successful and human. That's the new definition of influence, one rooted not in control, but in care. So the next time you meet someone, pause, listen, see them beyond the surface. Ask yourself, how can I make this person feel important, even for just a moment? Because that one question changes everything. When you start doing that consistently, sincerely, you'll find the world opening to you in ways you never imagined. Opportunities grow, relationships deepen, life gets lighter, and the best part? You don't just win friends. You win trust, loyalty, and love, the real wealth of life. That's the promise of how to win friends and influence people. Not a manual on manipulation, but a masterpiece on emotional mastery. When you live by these principles, you don't just influence people, you inspire them. Because influence born from kindness lasts forever. So smile more, listen deeper, appreciate louder, be genuinely interested in others, and watch your world transform. In a society craving connection, be the one who gives it freely. That's how you lead, that's how you win hearts, and that's how you truly influence people. Now we've reached the end of this cinematic summary of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If this inspired you, subscribe for more cinematic book breakdowns, where we explore timeless wisdom that helps you grow your confidence, deepen your relationships, and master the quiet power of human connection. Because influence isn't about what you say, it's about who you choose to be.